What's up, everybody? Welcome to Win Championship Trades for Life, a show focused on strengthening the mental fitness of athletes, coaches, and anyone and everyone that works on a team at any level. I'm Lee Elias, that's JB Spizo, and we are joined today by Sergeant Major retired Chris Dutch Moyer. And I want you to buckle your seatbelts because this is one of the best intros I've ever had the privilege to read. Here we go. Dutch is a 31-year U.S. Army veteran, spending 26 of those in the U.S. Army Special Operations, including the 75th Ranger Regiment, and also the most elite counterterrorism unit in the military. Dutch took part in over 1,000 successful combat missions in Iraq, Afghanistan, and other key locations around the world, some of these still remaining classified. He is a weapons and tactics expert and was one of the first program managers for the United States Special Operations Command in the K-9 Division, employing the military working dog in countless areas in combat. He is also a tactical driving expert and completed both civilian and military tactical driving and off-road rally courses. That's awesome. His awards and decorations include the Iraqi Campaign Medal with 4 stars, Afghanistan Campaign Medal with arrowheads signifying that he spearheaded an assault. Dutch has been to all the U.S. Army's Special Operations schools known to man, as well as awarded the Combat Infantryman's Badge and Ranger Tap. He has multiple awards for valor, including 5 Bronze Stars and a Legion of Merit. Dutch has been shot at, blown up, nearly killed by a working dog. He's a cancer survivor, and he is a true American hero, and he's an all-around badass with that intro. Today, he owns his own company, DCM Consulting, where he teaches pistol and assault rifle marksmanship, close quarters combat, canine handling, and of course, leadership. He's also a brand ambassador for several tactical products and companies. And he's also a huge sports fan and was the MVP of one of JV's military flag football championships. We had to include that. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, Sergeant Major Dutch Moyer. Dutch, great to
Thanks very much, Lee. Thank you, JB, for having me on. It's my honor. It's my pleasure. And let's get to it.
Yeah,
good to see you, Dutch. Good to see you.
The honor's all mine. Again, for the people listening to this episode, I can't wait to do this episode, much less have you listen to it. So this is going to be really fun. All right, Dutch, we're going to start right from the top. Your bio literally reads like something out of a war novel. And again, I said it and I mean it. You were an American hero, just like all your brothers and sisters that served. But take us through your journey from your hometown to the military and how you found this path for yourself.
I will. I would love to. I want to tell you, though, that I would submit to you that most of us will tell you that we are not heroes, but we knew stuff. Those are the ones that come home in a box, to be frank, and not on their feet. So those people we remember constantly. It's like yesterday, Veterans Day. You know, it used to be Remembrance Day until Dwight Eisenhower made it Veterans Day, but it's really we didn't think about the man necessarily or the woman who served. We thought about those who died. So that's how this all came about. Now we of course have Memorial Day as well, and that's where we go there. But you know, in the end, it's really about those that came before us and those that gave the ultimate sacrifice. That's how I figure it anyway. But let's see. Ever since I was a young man, I grew up in my formative years. I grew up in Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania, where JB and I have another link there. And I just always wanted, you know, I played in the sandbox. I built tanks and soldiers and painted stuff. And that's all I wanted to do really was be a soldier. And the path for me, I wanted to be a tank commander. So I did. I became a tank commander. Back in the day, the only thing I wanted to do was drive a tank, shoot the main cannon of a tank and be a tank commander. And I did. I joined the Army in 1981. And right after high school, I jumped in and became an armor crewman, and I was a tanker for quite some time, about 5 years. And I decided that this life was not for me. At first I thought in the beginning, I didn't want to be walking around on the ground. Why would I be an infantryman? That's stupid. I just love the armored warfare, the Blitzkrieg. I studied Erwin Rommel. I studied George S. Patton. So that's what I wanted. So that's what I did. But later I came to find that the professional army of the 80s, excuse me, was not the professional army that I thought it was. And there was alcohol abuse, there was drug abuse, and the leadership that I was under at the time and I do this because this is banner, right? Everything falls under the banner of leadership. I think JB will probably agree with me. And it just wasn't what I thought it was going to be. So I jettisoned into my career and I got out of the Army. Quickly realized that I missed it. I missed the structure and I missed the camaraderie, but I wasn't part of the professional group that I wanted to be. I really didn't know much about special forces or Rangers. So in the end, I found myself going back in the Army. I was affiliated with the 19th Special Forces Group out of West Virginia, and I rejoined as an infantryman. I went through Ranger Assessment Program, which they call it now. They call it RASP now, but no, they don't. Yes, they do. Do they, John? They call it RASP, I think.
Called RASP now, but back in the day, it was called RIP, as you know.
Ranger Indoctrination Program. I was successful there, airborne school, blah, 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 and became a Ranger for quite some time. I loved my Ranger life. And this is really where John and I intersected right there in Savannah when he was the new platoon sergeant of 2nd Platoon, Bravo Company 175 in Savannah. That's how we started. That's how we met. And I was a peon, and John was the platoon sergeant. He was next to God, if you will. You don't screw around with anybody but the platoon sergeant. That's how you view it. But I was successful there. And then in 1999, I decided to make the jump to Lightspeed and try out for what some people would call the most elite counterterrorist unit on the planet. And I was successful. I was very blessed to be successful in that endeavor. And I spent almost 14 years up there. From 1999 to 2013, wow. I finally decided to retire. I had some injuries that we can talk about later, but I had some challenges in my life. And in the end, I retired, but I still stayed affiliated with professional groups. I ended up working for the agency, and I worked with them. I went back to Erbil, and I went back to Beirut, and I worked for those folks for a while. And even Afghanistan, my last trip was right before the COVID hit in 19, I guess. And now here I am trying to make my way through the entrepreneurial life. Now I'm trying to teach young men and young women, whether they're law enforcement, military, or select patriotic Americans, on how to best deal with a pistol or rifle, shotgun, do CQB, defend their homes, prep a little bit, maybe even. And we'll see what happens from there.
Gotcha. Amazing story. And, you leave, so much of that out as far as your accomplishments in the military. It's such a unique and vast experience that some people can't even imagine. What I love that you did was, it wasn't right for you. I mean, you started off, you said, this is what I wanted to do. It wasn't right. But then you thought about it again, and you actually, you changed gears. Many people in the military don't go from armor to infantry, and you did. And you changed it, and you went there, and, you were blessed, and you were proficient at what you do. Dutch, you're one of the most level-headed people I've ever met. And, you were in the platoon, and I might've been the platoon sergeant, but you were far better than me. And the way that you thought, it was easy. It was easy to see how you were. And so, I feel you're one of the best teammates ever. So when you talk about being a teammate, and then you were in, obviously you were in the Ranger Regiment, and you went to JSOC, and, there it's only about the team, where a small team is doing big things. Maybe you can give our audience the definition of being a good teammate and why it's so important in whatever field you're in.
No, that's a great question, JB. And just to make sure we're clear here, I took a lot of great moments from the leadership that I had. So 2nd Platoon back in the day, 2nd Platoon BCO, and I don't want to make this a hug fest, mind you, but 2nd Platoon BCO needed some more motivation, and you became that guy. And I could see that this was a great opportunity for me to help you and the men. You got 40 guys under your command, right? And I could bring some passion of my own, of course, and it all worked out. But wow, one of the things that I am trademarking right now is a mantra called "My sword is your shield," and this comes back to the Greek, the Greek hoplites and the Roman soldiers in the phalanx. If you don't do it for you, that's fine. Do it for the man or the woman who's next to you, whether that's your family member or that's your teammate, right? And what's the old mantra? Together, each accomplishes more. This is what spells out team. For a short amount of time, I worked for United Parcel Service, and I tell you, I learned a lot about leadership, poor leadership, and good leadership. There's plenty of times I know we can go back in our own lives and look at, well, this woman or this man who was leading me at the time was not a leader at all. They were just barking out orders. They weren't doing it for the whole. They were doing it for themselves. One step on the ladder, they're going to move to another piece of management, do their own thing. But to work together, right? And it all stems down to leadership. What's George Patton say about leadership? It's not telling a man what to do. It's telling what you need to be done and letting him or her surprise you with their ingenuity. And that's all well and good, of course. But if they don't meet the standards, then of course that also fails. So, man, being a good team leader, a teammate, just not always doing it for yourself. A good friend of mine told me a long time ago, the hard right over the easy wrong. And that's, just good stuff. It's stuck in my head forever. And I don't know if that fulfills your question completely, but.
I love your answer. Like Dutch, I'll tell you why we bring this up is because and we talked about this a little bit before we went on the air today about, equating the military mindset to a team mindset in sports. And how we always use the same language. We use the same language of sacrifice and accountability and character. It's just in the military, it's much more severe what those definitions result in. And what I try and express to my young athletes and the young coaches is that obviously trust needs to be the foundation of any team environment or any environment where you work together. And, the military builds that. But then it comes down to accountability. And what the military does, and what you said, and I want to echo for our audience, is that it's not about me. It's not about the person sitting next to me. And that is something that, the military really taught me as an outsider looking in, was that, wow, each one of these men and women are going into the field or doing their job. It doesn't even always have to be in combat, with the person next to them front of mind. And if the military can do that under these conditions, like literally life and death conditions, we can't go play a hockey game. We can't go play a basketball, football game. We can't do that at that level. So I try and impress that upon the athletes and the coaches, just to give some perspective of like you said, it's not really about the I here, right? And if you look at any situation where the I overtakes the we, the team doesn't win. Teams don't win when there's individuals there. It doesn't happen. In fact, I've said this so many times in my public speaking career. I've never been on a team that won consistently or a championship, never, and then be like, man, I hated every one of my teammates on this team. They were horrible. It's never like that. It's a brotherhood. It's a sisterhood. It's a family. Like, again, athletes, you have accomplished this when anyone on your team scores, hits a home run, scores a touchdown, whatever, a score, and you feel great. You feel like you did it. When you hit that level, that's how you've hit the full team mode. And there's levels to this, right? Now, another reason why teamwork is so important, Dutch, is because when you face accountability, I'm sorry, not accountability, when you face adversity, say the same words there, one is that it's great to know that you're not by yourself, right? That there's a support system, but also you can use that shared experience. Now, in your lifetime, in your career, you faced a lot of adversity in a lot of different ways. So I want to hear from you. How do you overcome adversity? What techniques do you use? How do you press forward when the adversity is right in your face?
Great question. The key to how do you go about telling someone? So us three right now, the triumvirate that sits here today, right now, we understand the mental mindset of continue to march, keep going, keep going, keep going. Whether it was a road march, you were in a big rucksack that Rangers used to do, or whether it was when you first see the enemy in combat, he's shooting at you, and you have to do some horrible things. You have to, right? You absolutely have to. How do you get to a regular person and say, hey, how do you get over this? I'll be honest with you, I'm not exactly sure how you do. But mental mindset number one, right? I will not stop until I can go back to the house and open up a beer and relax and talk to my friends and my mates, right? So first of all, mental mindset. It's the Goggins, it's the Jocko Willings, it's those guys that have a bully pulpit now, and you can see those cats. And the Goggins story is a great story. Not stopping. I am just not going to stop until someone tells me it's time's up and you can't do it anymore, or you accomplish the mission. So first and foremost, to me, is mindset. But you gotta be smart enough, right? Not to. I love off-road racing. I love the Baja 500, Baja 1000, the Dakar series. You can't drive your vehicle in such a manner that it beats it all to hell and back, and then you can't reach the finish line. So the same thing with your bodies, right? The same thing with your mind. You can't punish yourself every day to a degree where you're just going to stop. So you're going to have to find some fine line, some level of higher performance and higher desire, and tamp that with not going to stop. Man, are we there?
No, it's a great look. Some of it's placebo effect too, right? Like, yeah, your mentality when it comes to adversity is massively important, right? And what's funny is that I can't remember who said it, but it was a military person said, when you can usually get yourself 75 to 80% there, but there's another 20-25% you don't realize you can do, right? It's the same adage of like, saying that do 100 push-ups and they can only do 50. No, you can do 100. You just have to do it, right? So that mentality, that never going to stop thing, or stay hard, as Goggins says, I think that's a huge part of overcoming adversity. And look, not everybody has it, right? Especially when you're feeling unconfident, and you get that voice in your head that's I can't do it, right? You have to have an equally as powerful voice fighting that voice to the point where maybe you don't even have anything in your head, right? It's just clear stream of conscious. So I think that's a great answer.
You really do.
It doesn't have to be this grandiose attempt at things. We look at some of these stories, and it's from from something to something great. And Dutch, you overcame cancer. You were shot. You were blown up. Like the working dog tried to kill you, and. But I think it's part of just, when you're talking about young people here on this, listen to the show, it's just like, take a step forward, like just keep going, like just give it a try. Talk to that professor if you're not sure of the grade on your paper. And it's this attempt of just trying to continue to move forward. Dutch, you could say in the Rangers and you and JSOC, you're around people who have kind of that like mindset. And even when we weren't sure, we saw somebody else moving forward. So we're like, okay, we'll move forward then. We'll keep going. So it's kind of that concept of, you can bring others along the way with you. And I think that's important to do that. And even if we're not exactly sure what those mental toughness tools are, let's just keep moving in that direction. Let's keep going that way. I remember
100%. The worst decision is no decision.
No decision.
What's the survival manual in the United States Army, the United States government pushes out the military pushes out a survival manual. Number one, before you go into any detail at all inside the manual, is you have to have the will to survive. Otherwise, it's totally useless.
Correct.
And there's other segues that I was thinking of when you were just talking, JB, and I've forgotten some of them already, but TBI, maybe, I don't know. I'm just kidding. But I just talked to 60 people or so in the JFK Warfare Center over here at Fort Bragg on Tuesday. And I said, look, the struggle is real. It's okay. The struggle is real. And I went back to and his speech at Agincourt, with the way Shakespeare describes it is, I don't want one man more on my team. I don't want one man more. I want all the glory. If we can hear, we band of brothers, if we can have more glory than this guy who's sleeping in his bed at home in England, or this guy who's comfortable, we'll put money in his pocket and let him go. Let his passport be made. Let him go, because I want my team to live in that glory, that glorious moment. And of course, we spoke earlier about the cat who climbed El Capitan, and it's the gold medal, silver medal attitude, right? He can't possibly fail. If he does fail, he's going to fall off the cliff and he's going to die. It's pretty much the same thing with a combat-oriented military occupational specialty in the Army or the Navy or the Marines or the Coast Guardsmen or whatever. If you do it wrong, you have a chance of saying goodbye to your mates. And, it could be on you. You don't want that on you. You don't.
Dutch, let me ask you this real quick, because you bring up a great point. When people see that movie Free Solo about that rock climber, it's funny because most people watch that and go, I don't understand. I don't understand how that guy can live like that. It sounds like to a level you kind of understand it. So
Dude.
let me ask you this question. I'm thinking about athletes here, right? And I want to equate this to your experience as much as we can. So, even I've experienced this. You've been on the bench or you've been on the sideline, and for whatever reason, fear grips you for a moment, right? Maybe it's just that droplet of doubt. Maybe I'm not having a good game. I'm not feeling it that day. And that kind of fear hits you, right? And you have a choice in that moment, right? You can let it take over and it's going to end your night, or you can put it aside. How does someone in your position, seeing the things that you've seen, and again, if you can give examples, great. If not, totally understand. But how do you compartmentalize that fear and move past it? How do you control it? Thinking again as a young athlete listening here, I'm trying to give them a great example of how someone at the highest level would challenge themselves past that moment, especially as you just said, there is no second place in your line of work, right? Second place is goodbye, right? So and JB, you can answer this too. How do you compartmentalize that fear, if that's the word you would even use, and continue to move forward together?
You want to go first?
No, go ahead, Dutch. Your show.
So see, I'm buying for time. All right. Number one, we're all scared, period.
Right.
There are times when, as simple as I'm going to jump up on the pull-up bar, chin-up bar, I get kind of scared. It's going to hurt, right? I'm going to do 25, 30 pull-ups, whatever. It's going to hurt. It's I don't have to do it. It's kind of scary. Don't do it. You can make that decision if you want, but it's kind of a thing, right? If I don't do it, then I'm going to fall into atrophy or whatever else, blah, blah, blah. But everybody's scared. Your training helps without a doubt. Training helps without a doubt. But if you continue to remember that we do it together, I do believe that, again, there's competition involved, right? So certainly a young man or a young woman in a team sport, there's competition involved. Do you want to be the last guy on the stage? I get it that the first guy who graduates medical school and the last guy who graduates medical school or girl is still called doctor, but the competition in you, do you want that? You want to be the last one? I don't want to be the last one. I don't. And I like the Goggins idea of it's okay for every time I pass another guy, I'm good. Go ahead. I got you. I got another one. And knocking them down, knocking them out. Anyway, I don't want to go too far in a segue, but to me, it's that level of competition and it's togetherness. I don't want to let anyone down. I don't want to let anyone down. And there's no way that I'm just going to have everybody. Oh, man, I'm bringing back some really cool memories actually right now. Without a doubt, it is scary. You have to get through the scare, right, to help out your partner, right? Because otherwise it breaks down. It doesn't work. Remember the old mantra, right? One is none, two is one, right? Or iron sharpens iron, biblical nature. We have to do these things. Otherwise, the whole machine is going to break down and we'll become what? Cylons, will become nobodies, will become machines, become numbers like in Ayn Rand's book, Anthem. No, we're all individuals, but we need to work as a team to get it right.
And I think it's important when you're working as a team to understand, be a superstar in the role asked of you. Dutch, when you were in the Rangers, I mean, I'm sure you were there a short time. You're like, what? There's something else I can do that's, might be a little bigger and a little bit greater. But while you're in the Rangers, you did that day every single day to excellence, and then you were fortunate to move on to another unit and be excellent there. And I think that's important for people to understand because. Dutch, when our platoons were getting picked for a mission, everybody wants to be on the assault, right? Did your platoon get the assault? Remember when old Andy Ulrich would come back from the meeting with the commander, like, did we get the assault? Because, you were the tip of the spear there, but there's also the importance of being on the support position and being on the security element as well, too. And I think as we're climbing and growing, there's this, everything's sports center, it's self-promoting. Odell Beckham Jr. now, just left the team and now he's in another team. And it's like, good for him. Well, what about his last team? So what did you do for them? And I think sometimes when we're continuing to grow and we want to climb this ladder as fast as we can, we forget that, we can't burn bridges along the way. We still have to develop relationships. We still have to be great at what we do, because Dutch and Lee, this from being a coach and an athlete, inside that locker room, that's where the real stories are. And you can never hide from that. And I've said before, when, we were trading for a player, when I worked in the NHL, if we were trading for a player, I always called the equipment manager and say, hey, tell me about this guy. Tell me about this girl. Tell me about this person, because that's where the truth is told. And so at the end of the day, you want that good word from that person that's next to you, that's sharing the blood, the sweat, the tears, everything else. Go ahead, Dutch.
I can't say yes or amen, even more than that. I don't know.
Dutch, I'll jump in. I want to reiterate something you said too, and it tags right on with what you said, JB, which was, look, I want everyone listening to understand that Dutch just said this. He said, I feel fear, right? Like, there's this misconception I find that, like, people at the top levels or that do what you do, they're never scared or they don't feel fear. What's funny is every person I've ever met in combat is not afraid to admit, oh, it's scary, right? And the other thing you leaned on right away was your team. And I'll tell a quick story. I was talking to a combat controller from the Air Force once, and look, I don't typically ask anybody about their combat experience, but this young man was really opening up to me about specifics, which I'm not going to get into. But the question kind of came up from me, and it was a comfortable situation of, I don't understand how you do it. How do you go out there when those bullets are flying and do it? I don't know if I'd have the courage to do that. And he said, Lee, it's real simple. He goes, number one, anyone who's in combat tells you that they weren't scared is full of shit. All right. He goes, I'm scared when I go out there. He goes, don't anybody tells you they weren't scared is lying to you. And then he said this, and this hit me between the eyes and really completely changed my life in a lot of ways. He goes, it's really simple. He goes, I just go out there kind of assuming I'm not going to make it, and I try and save the person next to me. And we all do that as a unit. And that statement changed my life, because I'm thinking to myself, wow, the selflessness on that, you can't get more selfless than that. This guy just admitted that, he's not invincible, that he does fear. And when we think about the problems with young athletes, and JB, you brought up a good example, they think they're invincible. They think that they can't fear, that fear is going to hold them back. And I find that the highest performers accept that that's the reality, and they do it for the person next to them. And again, JB, with I don't want to talk too much about OBJ. He was released from his team. He's one of the most talented players at his position in the NFL. There's no 100%. Doubt. He was released. What do you have to do at that level to be released with that much talent, right? His team said it wasn't worth it. Now, again, he's talented, and he may go somewhere else, and he might find his way. And like I said, I don't root against a guy like that. You want him to be good. And there's been plenty of examples of professional athletes, college athletes that have put me ahead of we, failed, then gone to another team and figured it out, right? Typically, anyone who plays with Tom Brady figures it out pretty quickly, or they're not there that long, right? But that's what you said. It's this we over me mentality. If you want to win, if you really want to succeed, we over me, right? Coaches, I want you to hear that. And two is that you don't want to look at fear like it doesn't exist. You have to acknowledge it and then move past it, or find a way to use it to your advantage. But not acknowledging it, I want you both to answer this, not acknowledging it is a detriment. And when I say acknowledge, I don't mean you have to talk about it all the time, but I just mean acknowledge. Yeah, you're going to feel that, but success comes when you feel it and know how to move past it, or compartmentalize it to a place that it's not going to affect you. Because we all fear it. And let's be honest, guys, fear is the number one reason people just don't do things. Fear of failure. It's always been amazing to me that failure is the greatest teacher, but it's also the thing that holds us back more than anything. I heard a great analogy, and then I'll shut up. I heard a great analogy about, when you put your hand on the oven when it's hot and it burns, you pull it back real quick because you learned and you're not going to do that again. But they said most people, when you really think about it in society, they're putting their hand on the oven, it's burning, and they're keeping their hand there out of the fear of they don't know what's going to happen if they remove it. They're just letting it burn. Right. So there's just some thoughts there, but I wanted to make sure the audience understands this. You guys have to understand. JB told me this man Dutch is like Rambo, right? And Dutch just told you he feels fear, right? So again, Dutch, I'm not just trying to focus on that. I'm just trying to make sure people understand that like that's part of who you are as a human being, and that the top performers know how to feel that and do something about it. Am I right in saying that?
I think you are completely right in saying that. But I'll tell you though, somebody asked me the other day during this talk of 60 guys, do you do any mental classes? Do you do a mental awareness class? Do you do? And I'm saying no, we don't. Is that if you get a bunch of guys and if you can't do the tasks that are asked of you, then eventually you just go away.
Right.
It would be the same with any kind of high-level college, high-level pro teams.
Right.
You're just going to get to a point where you just can't do what the other men or women can do. So it's just time for you to go. The fear part, Tony Blauer is a pretty good friend of mine. He has a podcast called No Fear, KNOW. And in the 80s, early 90s, maybe, there was a shirt company that had No Fear, NO Fear. And I love those. As a young man, I love those shirts. Second place is the first loser, a whole bunch of cool sayings. You wanted to, it was motivational stuff, but KNOW, everyone has it. You have to know how to harness it, move it away, change it, deal with it. One of the things, and I talked to you earlier about, I'm going to write a book somewhere. Rule number one is going to be act like you've been there before. If it's possible for you to just hold on for a second. We used to teach as a squad leader, I don't know, everybody listening understands the regular infantry type of tactic, but a squad leader is in charge of about 8 guys, maybe 9, maybe 10. And when the enemy makes contact with you as you're walking through the woods or walking through the streets or whatever, there's reaction to contact, right? You start reacting to that contact. And what happens is your training allows us to become a battle drill. So we know this is happening. This is what we're going to do. Okay, that being said, the guy who runs the whole show, the squad leader, and this guy who runs 10 people, give or take, he has to use battlefield patience to figure out where the enemy's coming from, where the fire is coming from, and then how to get rid of it, right? Whether his men are going to advance or we're going to leave because it's too overwhelming. But battlefield patience is part of rule number 1, act like you've been there before. Don't freak out. Hold on a second. Use a little bit of battlefield patience. Hopefully training will kick in and then continue to move, right? And be tough, right? Is it horrible? Maybe it's horrible, but it'll be over soon. Guarantee it. But you want to be on the right side of it with the walking portion when we're on the other side of it. That makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. Yeah, no, and I like that. Act like you've been there before. I think that's an important one for the athletes, and again, training is important. Here's a question I've always wanted to ask. And again, this is for both of you. JB, I probably could have asked you this a long time ago. But again, Dutch, just looking at your combat experience, follow me here, right? 365 days in a year. How many of those days are you training and how many of those days are you working?
So the United States military, right? The federal government's only real job is to protect its people and its interests across the globe and its partners' interests and let the people free, right? But that's a whole nother story, a whole nother podcast you get to do what the federal government's supposed to do. Nothing. But the United States military is really formed to deal with nightmares. That's what it's for. It's for nightmares. It's break glass in case of fire. That's what it's for. I totally get it. It's to project power, yes, to other countries, but it's really to protect its own people and its partners across the globe. Now, because of that, training happens all the time. So in a peacetime army, you train constantly and there's no Super Bowl. There's no Stanley Cup. There's no World Series. There's nothing. In a wartime army, there's a portion of your time where you will train, and then there's a portion of time where you will deploy. And this goes in cycles, right? So there's a training time, there's an off time, there's a deployment time. Basically, I mean, that's about as simple as it gets. There's only 3 pieces. You're training for a certain amount of time until it's your turn to go to war. You do that, And while you're in war, while you're in theater, by the way, if you're a smart, good unit and you're allowed to do the things that makes you better, then you can train while you're there, and you do. Whether you train on the flat range and you train pistol and rifle, or whether you train other young men that are in your element, like we did, we train Rangers and say, hey, come on over, we're doing hand-to-hand combat. Hey, come on over, we're doing dog training. Hey, come on over, we're going to show you how we put up ladders on the wall. And this benefits everything, buddy. And you earlier, John, you said it, but I wanted to expound on it. Is a rising tide rises all boats. So if I have goodness to give, let's give it, right? That's a good leadership and good training traits. My gosh, right? So if I can give you something back, why wouldn't you? Can I go back to the room and play stupid video games or something? Or could I do my own PT and focus on myself? Yeah, can. But there are other men in the group that need to reach out to those other young men or young women, bring them on board, say, this is how we do it. Let's get better together as a team, and a rising tide rises all boats. Did I fulfill that question?
Yeah. The reason I'm asking it is because in my line of work, and JB, you know this too, in my line of work, when I work with teams, and this could be any team, sports team, business team, what you just said eludes them. We barely train. We barely train to be a team when it comes to teamwork, right? It's always about the game, or it's always about the bottom line. And the reason I was asking that question is when I talk to coaches, I say, you need to be spending a significant, not a little bit, significant amount of time training. So that when you train hard, the games become easy. Or if you're in an office setting, if you train hard, the job becomes easy. Right. And I just think that we do that ass backwards most of the time. It really bothers me.
Sweat and training saves blood in combat. So that's bottom line, period. Right. You can't get away from that, right?
Right. And Dutch can tell you before 9/11, we were in the Rangers in the mid 90s, and every single day we trained, and we were like, we hope the president gets us into war so we can see if this works. And we trained every day because we had to be ready, because in 18 hours we could be anywhere in the world and fighting an enemy. And here it is. And you got to be game ready to go. Everything packed. You're the tip of the spear. And I think that's so important to continue that. And when you're doing that, when you're training and you're motivating, you're leading and you're practicing and you're being creative and you're allowing people to use your curiosity to get yourself better, that just makes you as a human better. And I think that's so important to do that. Go ahead, Dutch.
No, it's cool. That could be exhausting, right? As a leader. So, okay, coaches, that can be exhausting. I totally get it. One of my favorite sports movies is Miracle, right? And this is about the 1980 hockey team that all came together and beat the Soviets. One of the scenes in this movie I like so much actually did not happen. And that's when he runs them after the Swedish game. I think they either tie or they lose to the Swedes. You can see the men aren't focused. They're focused on the girls in the audience and blah, blah, blah. But he makes them run from the red line all the way to the center, right, and back. He makes them do basically crossovers, right? He's smoking. And he keeps asking them, who do they play for? Who do they play for? Who do they play for? And they finally come together as a team and they say they play for the USA. But what I understand is that didn't happen exactly the way it was. But the point being is, it's not about you as an individual. It's about the conglomerate in this particular case, right? It can't go without. You just can't do without. Yeah, I don't know where else.
Dutch, I can tell you how that actually ended. So I studied that team pretty in depth. So what's funny about that story is it's actually not far off from what actually happened. So obviously in the movie, Mike Urzioni, the captain, shouts, "I played for the United States of America." It is a great scene. So in real life, what happened, he did exactly that. He did skate them just like that. And the way that ended was one of the players got out of line, and I'll explain why Herb Brooks ended this, and he broke his stick over the boards. And when that happened, Brooks ended the practice. And what he said was, I was waiting for a moment when they would say, "I've had enough," right? That he wanted them to stand up and say, "I've had enough," because they're going against the Russians soon, right? So the unity moment is still there. It might not be as patriotic as what we saw in the film, but the moment is still exactly the same. So just so you know, like what happened in real life is that happened. That actually happened. And that, the idea was, he said, I wanted to blur the boundaries of our country by bringing these guys together. Because you have to remember that team hated each other when they came together. These guys were not friends, right? They played for rival colleges that really did not like each other. And he was able to blur that and bring them together, thus again improving everything we've talked about in this episode about that it's got to be we over me, right? You can't succeed without that, you know. And again, I love all these stories we're talking about today. And I love the direction we're going in here, because it just proves the point. Again, coaches and players, training, everything, you know. A real quick story, right? One of my favorite moments is a skills coach is I have to make guys do repetitive drills over and over and over again until they get the muscle memory down. And it can be frustrating at times, especially when you've done it 100 times. But it is totally the Karate Kid wax on, wax off thing. And I'll never forget, I was teaching a player a little bit of an offensive zone strategy to shake off a defenseman. And we did it 100 times. And he said, I hate this. And I said, I know, but trust me, because you won't think about it. Next game, he does the exact move and scores. And I go up to him, I was like, that was it. He had no idea he even did it. He didn't even know he did it. He just reacted. His training kicked in, right? And that's why I'm saying to young coaches, young players, young business owners, whatever you want to say, you have to train and you have to embrace that training. So young athletes, especially when you roll your eyes about practice is where you're going to learn what you need to succeed.
That's the great quote, right? It's a great quote from Iverson. We're just talking about practice.
We just practice. Just practice.
So I failed to maintain my thought process. So it's coaches, right? This could be exhausting. It can be. So whether it's JB and I in the peacetime army training all the time, and as a leader, I'm telling you, that could be exhausting. It can be, because what are you training for? What are you training for? Then the challenges of the young man itself or the young woman. I submit to you, the challenges may be even greater today because of social media and the computer. People walk around in their hands all the time. This is another challenging thing. But it's like I tell students when you talk about repetition. So a Cape Girardeau SWAT guy asked me a long time ago, he said, show me something cool. And I said, here's what I'll tell you, brother. I said, I'll show you something not that cool, but if you do it millions of times, it becomes really easy to do. So you'll think it's cool. But really, it's the fundamentals constantly. Oh, what's Gladwell say? 10,000 hours to be an expert? Well, that's a long time. And I know other people refute that. That's fine. I don't care. It's neither here nor there. But the bottom line is it takes a long time to get it right. How often did Mr. Jordan stand on the wood and throw free throws? I mean, certainly Shaquille O'Neal did not do that, because during his time, I remember this. I even called a radio station about this. But during his time, that was one of his greatest failure points, right? He's a great dude. I get it. But he couldn't make a free throw, or I can't even say the words, a free throw to save his life. So close quarter battle is another thing. To do close quarter battle day in and day out, you better be ready to turn that corner, because every time you turn the corner, someone's there trying to kill you. It can be so exhausting. But you have to be switched on. You have to be. Take a break when you take a break, decompress how you decompress. But throughout this schoolhouse, this building, this hospital, this hotel, when you do a CQB in a hotel or a barracks room, it's exhausting. It can be totally exhausting. Not to mention you have your kid on, you got foot movement, you're moving around. It's game on, game off, fast, slow. But it's the mental portion that will. I tell you what, I had a client the other day, and I talked about this. But it's the mental portion that'll drain you down. So my segue is this. So when you're driving, you drive a long way. You've both driven more than 500 miles at a clip someday in your life. I know you have. So when you're driving, you're always looking 3 steps ahead. You're trying to, right? You're keeping your eyes where you want to go, not necessarily where you are,
right?
Etc. But there are times when you're driving on I-95 or wherever it might be, where you find yourself just looking at the hood. Now you can see you're safe, but you're just kind of looking at the hood. I have to shake myself and go, hey, all right, wake up, kid. You're not sleeping, but make sure you're checking out that semi, this little car over here, this people here. You have to shake yourself awake. So real driving, like a driving in a race, can be totally exhausting. And it's not just exhausting physically, it's exhausting mentally. But you have to keep pushing, right? In the race, individual races, sure, fine, whatever. You're going to win for yourself. You win for your team, maybe, sure. I'm sure you do. There's a big team behind every race car, whether it's off-road or on-road.
It's a team
I think
sport.
the only time you're doing it by yourself, I think probably is some sort of marathon or
Right. No, racing is a
triathlon.
team sport. And I'll say this, I used to be one of those guys that said it was only left turns, and I really kind of got into it a little bit. I was like, wow, this is way more than left turns. This is a total team sport. And, when it comes to being a driver, Dutch, you bring up this, you just want to tap on this real quick. People go, oh, it's just driving. Okay. You go drive 180 miles per hour for a few hours in a row. When you go 90 or 100 right now on the highway, you get all like, whoa, imagine doing that for a few hours a day, twice as fast.
Bumper to bumper.
Yeah. Inches, if that, and tapping people and bumping people, rubbing people. Race car drivers do not get enough respect for the amount of, I'll say athleticism they need to do that. But anyway, I don't want to digress from your point.
No, you're good.
Dutch, it's amazing. You talk about everything you've done with, this tactical driving, with this dog handling, like jumping dogs out of an airplane. Like, I think that's just hilarious how you figured out how to do that.
Just to be clear, I never did that. So
okay, all right.
My people have. I do not.
Your people have, yeah. Eddie has. I think Eddie's done that. Yeah. So, but when we talk about leadership, and you got a young coach on here, a young business professional. Marco. Marco's a hockey coach. Now, he's going to be listening to this. So, give these young professionals, these young coaches, these athletes, give them the Dutch Moyer keys to leadership success. Your couple keys.
Wow. Great question. And it's not easy, right? Lead from the front. Task, condition, standards. This is easy, right? This is easy stuff, right? For you and I, it's easy. I recently did a thing called, I'm still involved in a Warrior Ethos type program down in Orlando with a bunch of CEOs. And when we tell them the military leadership process, they're blown away. They're, oh, how are you blown away? But seriously, lead from the front. If you can lead from the front, lead from the front. Be able to do those tasks that you ask them every day. You can do them, right? You can do them. I learned from you, JB. That's easy, right? It's good stuff. Task, condition, standards, right? You create a task. This is what we're going to do today. This is where we're doing it, and this is what I expect, right? So basically the minimum acceptable rate. This is what I'll accept, or what I won't accept. So if you and what are you prepared to do, by the way, psychologically, what are you prepared to do? Do you really want to win? Do you really want to do these things? If you do, climb on board. Let's get it done. If not, maybe it's time for you to find a different job. And then follow up, right? Trust but verify. Back to Ronald Reagan. Trust but verify. Look, I'm asking you to do these things. Did you do them in my absence? If you didn't, let's verify it. Have you done these things? Obviously, it's going to come out in practice. It's probably going to come out in the game. And then empathy too, right? Leadership you have to have some empathy, man, because everyone has a story to tell. Everyone's going through different things. It's the old Brad Paisley song. You're yelling at the guy in front of you, but you're having one of those days. What if those people are having one of those lives? You don't know what's happening exactly. Being a mentor is important. Being a friend, still like parenting, as you well know. Maybe not good to be a friend as a parent, but certainly you can be a mentor and a teacher. But being a friend as a coach, it's certainly possible. But they also have to know, where the line is between, and hang out with me and not. And maybe it's a good idea for the coaching staff, right? Not to be part of the tribe, that little tribe. Not to make an us and them caste system necessarily, but hey, look, this is the hierarchy. Everybody understands that and knows that you have to know. And then have fun. Have fun. What's that great movie about the baseball kid who inherits his Jason Robards dies and he gets his baseball team, and in the beginning he has a little bit of fun and then he's winning, so then they start cranking down and he's really all about himself, and then in the end they have to have fun and they make the playoffs. But I can't remember what that movie's called, but it's a lot of fun. But yeah, you gotta have fun. Professionals have to have fun, man.
No, and I think a lot of times when we're doing this, I hope that when we were in the Rangers together, I think our platoon did have fun. We worked hard. We had fun. And I think sometimes even other units look down on us because of that, because, we were a family, but there was a hierarchy and we knew what we had to do. And I think that that's important, because I think what people miss, Dutch, is they miss the enjoyment of the journey. I did too. There was points in my military career I missed the enjoyment of the journey, and now I look back, I say, you know what, I should have, accepted that a little bit better. I missed some of the enjoyment of the journey. I think that's so important, whether you're in sports or you're a coach or you're in business, and even if it's not particularly exactly where you want to be, it's okay. But enjoy that enjoy that portion of the journey. When I was in professional sports here last time, I don't know if I enjoyed that journey as much as I should have. And if I get an opportunity again, I'm going to make sure that I enjoy it a little bit more. And
Right.
so
Awesome.
we have to continue to do that. That's great words, Dutch. Thank you.
I'll tell you one more example if I can too. Reward, right? So just like in the animal world, there's, A equals B to a dog. I want you to sit, you get a treat. Okay, fine. But there's a reward. So I will give you an example of Jay Brimson was one of our first sergeants. We jumped in full kit. So for Lee and everybody else wearing the military thing, it was a Ranger jump in at nighttime, full kit. We walk for 25 miles, right? We do a 25-mile road march. And at about the 24th mile or so, or 23rd mile, we stop and we get a fragmentation order, which means it's a new mission. We're going to change everything around. And we build objective rally points and stuff. We're ready to go. We've got a mission. We're going to hit these two buildings up here, and we're going to get the bad guys off them. Develop a plan. Do it right now. So the platoon sergeants and platoon leaders develop the plan. We hit the structures, and we move past the objective. We secured it. We told the first sergeant commander we're good to go. We're secure. And then he said, end the exercise, and then brought in trucks with pallets and built a bonfire, and had medics look after all the men's feet, and then brought in some chow. So we worked super hard. We took the objective, and then now's the time to relax, work, talk about the after action review, sure, but now relax, have fun. Everybody, camaraderie, you get that together. There are leaders out there that lose that. They cannot see that. They just work and work and work and work. The United States Army has its challenges. When a company commander, which is in charge of about 120 people, he'll stay for only 2 years, and he'll whip that horse. Man, he whips that horse, right? He works these boys for 2 years, and then he bails. And another guy shows up, and he whips them for 2 years, and he bails. Meanwhile, the sergeants and the sergeant first class, they get to stick around. And so they don't do it enough of the reward system. And there has to be hard work and then hard fun.
I find, Dutch, from what you're talking about, one of the mistakes I made early on in my coaching career, and I was coaching in my early 20s, which was a blessing. But I was very critical of my players. I demanded excellence, but I never complimented them enough. And I realized that I was willing to tell them when they were doing something wrong, but I was never willing to tell them when they were doing something right. Even though I saw it. Now, it wasn't a conscious decision. I didn't purposely not tell them. It just was not top of mind. I was always got to keep moving forward. Right. And it's funny because I was probably that way as a player too, with myself. Like I didn't spend much time rewarding myself. And the thing is, it's important. And as I got older and as I matured as a coach, I always tried to find at least one thing to reward them with, along with the thing I was asking them to work on. And it made me realize this, right? We're talking about fun, right? There's this great quote in A League of Their Own where Tom Hanks goes, the hard is what makes it great. Right? It's supposed to be hard. And I find that really great coaches make the hard part fun, right? They help the athletes embrace the hard because it is in sports. Yeah, it's the hard that makes it fun. Bad coaches will make the hard suck. We were just interviewing Eric Nystrom, former NHL player, had a long career, legacy player. His dad played, won Stanley Cups with the Islanders. And it was funny because when he was talking, JB, I noticed that the coaches that he didn't like just made it a miserable experience. Playing in the NHL is hard. It's the hardest. It's the hardest level of hockey. But he said that the players that are the coaches he loved were the ones that made that fun, or at least made it enjoyable. We interviewed Tom Rennie, who's the CEO of Hockey Canada. And he talks about when he coached the Rangers that, they had so much fun as a team, and that Ranger team was really successful. Right. So it's always a balancing act. You have different personalities. You have different people on coaching staffs and that. So every single team is different. I even said, if you have the same team with the same players every year, it's a different team every year. People mature, people grow, people, some of them are enjoying the journey, JB, some of them aren't, right? As long as you're learning. But, just based on your leadership stuff, the way I tried to do this with my teams now is this. There's this misconception that coaches might be gods and the players are sheep. Not everybody does. That's an extreme example. But the way I always approach it is this. The coaching team is a team. The team is a team. The equipment manager staff is a team.
Yes.
It's teams within teams. And what I want as a coach is my team to trust that I'm making good decisions, right? I don't want them to fear me. I want them to believe that I'm making good decisions, that they can trust me as the leader, as the head coach, or even within the coaching group as an assistant coach. I want the head coach to trust I'm doing the best I can to give you the best suggestions, and you can trust that I'm not trying to backstab you. That happens all the time, by the way, in coaching, right? When I serve as an assistant coach, the head coach, it's their job to make the decision. They don't have to take my advice and use it. My job is just to provide them with as much information as I possibly can so they can make an informed decision. It's on them, right? I want the players to trust the coaching staff, and at the same time, reversing it, I want to trust that the team is doing everything they can as athletes. I don't play the games, right? You hear this all the time, and it's so true. The athletes play the games. We're just trying to put you in a position to succeed. I'm not on the ice anymore. I mean, not at the level I coach at. I am in beer league. I do the best I can. It's a totally different experience. All right. But my point is, that's the environment that you want to create. And when you get a player that's me over we or egotistical, yeah, you have to deal with that. But I find this, if you can create an impenetrable team bond, if you can get those teams within the teams to work together towards a common purpose and have an extreme team bond, people like that cannot survive. JB is probably a great example. They're trying to build something in Cleveland. He did not fit that team bond mold. They excused him with all of his talent. And make no mistake, he is one of the best players at his position, talent-wise. There's no doubt about it, right? He's going to have to learn. So, JB, I'm echoing you. You have to try and enjoy the journey. If you forget to do it, JB, you learn from it. You said it. I want to do it again. Again, one really quick story for me. I remember when I was 17 years old, my brother, who worked in the government, took me to the White House, right? Never been to the White House before. And again, I'm 17. The aura of the White House is a real thing at that age, right? It's not just the White House. That's where the president lives. This is incredible, right? Doesn't matter what year it was. Doesn't matter who the president is. So I decided I'm going to do a school project on this, right? I'm going to be able to do this great school project about the White House. So I go with my camera, and I taken all these pictures, and I had all these great pictures, and I come back and I do the presentation about the White House. JB, Dutch, you know what? I realized when I got back, I was upset. I just looked at the White House through a camera, and I was there. I didn't actually experience the White House. I just took pictures of it. And I felt horrible when I got back. I'm like, man, I might never get to go there again, right? I did get to go there again with my son later in life, and I totally just everything embraced it. I was thankful for that. But I realized in that moment, man, you can really miss out on something if you're not prioritizing your attention the right way. I'm glad I did great on that school project, but what did I just sacrifice? Time with my brother, being in the White House. I mean, which should have an aura to it, by the way, everybody, if you ever get to go there.
Should.
A lot of history in that house. All right. And it stands for something greater than ourselves. Equating it back to sports. If you're sitting on the bench upset you're not playing, which I've been there. I've been there. It hurts. What are you doing to be a good teammate?
Yeah, watch the Rudy show then. Watch the Rudy movie.
Right. I love Rudy. It's one of my, it's funny, Dutch. I find I know people that hate that movie. And they say stuff like, what did he really do?
It's one of the
Are
best
you
movies
serious?
ever.
Yeah. What did he really do? Are you serious? That undying dream that he accomplished what everyone said he couldn't accomplish. He only played in one play. Like, you're not getting it if you're thinking that way. That always boggled my mind, right? And we say this in coaching. The two hardest players to coach, or the hardest type of player to coach, is the player that has all the talent and no drive, and then adversely, the player that has all the drive and little talent. They're equally as hard. But I'll tell you what, I will take the all drive, no talent player any day of the week, because that person can set the standard for the rest of the team. I always enable that player. I look for that player. JB, you look for the equipment manager to ask how people treat people. I look for the player that's probably not going to play too many games. And I enable that player. I make the team look at that player. Look how hard this person is working, knowing they're never going to get in there. You can't try that hard. Anyway, I'm going on a soapbox here.
I like it.
It sounds like I'm on stage right now. I apologize.
I like it.
You're motivated. Right. All right. Let me round the episode back. Dutch, you've been awesome. Our channel Grit and our parent channel Pivotal Moments Media, the whole purpose of it is to break the stigma surrounding mental fitness and mental health. Right. That's why we exist. And I've said this before. I've switched from saying mental health to mental fitness under the understanding that we all understand physical fitness. We all understand what that is. You work on your body, you go to the gym, whatever. We don't do that for the mind enough, right? So I want to know, how do you define mental fitness? How do you practice your mental fitness? How do you stay sharp at the tip of the spear, as you said? Because JB is right. You're unbelievably level-headed for what you've been through in your life. All right. So you've done something right.
I don't know, a clean upbringing. Really a clean up. I had a great mom. I have a great mom. I have a great dad. And just celebrated his 85th birthday in Jeanette, Pennsylvania, by the way.
Happy birthday to him.
JB. Yeah, it was a hoot.
Awesome.
Let's start there, right? So if you read Grossman's book on killing or on combat, you talk about a great family background is ultimately very important for the man or woman who is asked to go to combat, pull the trigger, and then go to bed.
Right.
Pull the trigger, go to bed without drinking a gallon of alcohol or feeling bad about it. Training obviously is involved in this. It's not that simple, but
right.
It's a great core start. Belief to me is a great core, right? I do believe in Jesus Christ. I do. I believe that there's a lot of things to learn about when you, and it's a funny thing it's controversial somehow now. It's not controversial to me, but you'll see throughout the politics of the day, the spirit of the age is really moving against a lot of Christian patriarchal society. But faith is a big thing for me, right? I'm okay. Stonewall Jackson stood like a stone wall. He said, because it doesn't matter. He already knew that his time was fixed. There's a great quote in the 13th Warrior where Antonio Banderas' character gets worried about combat, and the other guy says, you can hide in a hole if you like, but the skein of your life has been written long ago. This is already determined for you, if you believe that. It's the root of the question, though, man. So, like, go back to this kid the other day who said, "Hey, do you do mental stuff?" No, I don't. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know, and I don't know how you can improve it.
Well, something you brought up, Dutch. Go ahead.
If I may, is just a strong tribe. So, right. a strong team bond tribe. We talked earlier about 1 is none and 2 is 1. So I would tell you that a strong tribe helps you with mental clarity for sure. You have a gang of people, if you want to call it that. You have a group of people that you can trust. I like to call them trusted agents. If you have a group of people around you that are trusted agents that you can go to, talk to, everybody feels bad. Everybody gets scared. Everybody feels bad once in a while. So if you can go to these people, confide in them, whether it's just through your shared experiences or your shared love for each other, that is a great way to keep mental openness and mental acuity. Instead of looking at social media all the time, instead of looking at a computer all the time, get outside, play games for your brain. That does make a difference. Read. There are so many people that don't read anymore. And I'm guilty at times of that as well. But I want to read more. I want to be more involved in stuff that I don't know about. Just keep. I think when you're looking at gray matter, when you're looking at, I don't know, a scientist by any means, any stretch, but to exercise your brain helps with this mental fluidity too, and it helps calm you down, relax. and to be smart about all kinds of things, everything in moderation, right? Whether it's sugar, alcohol, tobacco, whether it's moderation, it has to be in moderation. You can't go crazy with this stuff. Otherwise you're going to be slave to it. And a lot of people kind of forget that too.
I'll tell you this, Dutch. We've done a lot of these shows. I've done a lot of these shows across multiple platforms. The common themes, and you said it, faith is insanely important. However you want to define faith, it's insanely important. You have to have it. 2, tribe. There's other people out there with you. You're not alone. I'm finding these to be the common things between mental fitness and moving forward. Is you're not alone, and you got to have faith, and you got to do things together. But listen, Dutch, that's our time, man. You were awesome. This is a great show.
Thanks, man.
I appreciate you coming on. JB is speaking really highly about you. I really appreciate you unveiling his first name to us for the first time. Now we all know it. I'm not going to let him live that down anytime soon.
Boy,
we'll figure out what the B stands for at some point. We've never.
No, you don't get it yet. You won't get it.
You got to earn that, I guess. But Dutch, listen, thanks so much for the time today. I appreciate it, and I'm looking for. I learned something, so I know our audience will.
Dutch, you're the best. You're the best.
No, dude, thanks very much. I appreciate it. It's good to see you again, of course. Lee, it's great to make your acquaintance and meet you, and hopefully we'll see each other someplace else, and hang out and raise a glass for those that can't raise it.
Yes,
it would be an honor. We got to go, but I want to tell you both this again. And Dutch, I appreciate it. You said, I'm not a hero. I serve with heroes. You're heroes to me. All right. I know yesterday was Veterans Day. I've said this and I mean it. Every day is Veterans Day to me. Every day is Memorial Day to me. I live my life that way. Some people love superheroes and they're great, but you guys, the men and women that serve, you're my heroes. And I want you to know that. You mean the world to me. So that's going to do it for this edition of Win Championship Trades for Life. You can hear this podcast and all the podcasts we've done wherever podcasts are heard, but check out pivotalmomentsmedia.com. If you want to learn more about us for inspirational content, educational content, anything else. But for JB and Dutch Moyer, I'm Lee Elias. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time on Win.